Jose Morales from Black Women TV talking to showrunner Janine Sherman Barrois from Kings of Napa, which is finishing off its season 1. Hello, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
So season 1 just ended. Obviously, there's a lot going on. So the first question off the back is, do we know if there's going to be a season 2?
I hope so. I mean, the fans are loving it. If you see us online, people are obsessed with it. The show is building. Hopefully there will be, fingers crossed, Oprah. That's why I'm just saying.
You've had obviously a long career in television. You finished off Claws, and obviously you're in the thrust of this. What were the challenges of just making sure this show gets off on the right foot and stays on, and that people are interested week after week?
I mean, I think it's hard, shooting during the pandemic. I think it's hard shooting, this is not a huge budget show. It's not a huge budget. It was hard shooting in Toronto during a pandemic, but I think people rallied together and we made a really good show. I think, it's very competitive. We're on Tuesday nights. There's probably, people say there's 10 to 12 shows with Black, leads, Black creatives. It can range from everything from Abbott Elementary to Naomi to, Tyler's lineup to
This Is Us.
This Is Us to Queens to, our kind of people. It's been a challenging night. But I think when people find the show is about this, family that you can relate to. It might have twists and turns. They might be over dramatic in times, but I think it's fun. It's aspirational. And I think it holds up a mirror to all of us where we all can see our families. We can see ourselves. We can see power dynamics. And I think each episode has a different big hook. And as you saw from the finale, there's a bunch of hooks that kind of thrust us into season 2. And we'll be wondering, how is August going to get this family out of the new pressure, the new looming, big baddie? And how are all these interpersonal relationships with August and her, with Calvin, or with, Dana and Rose, or with Rose and Bridgette? How are all of these dynamics going to play out?
Throughout the season, every episode, there's a twist and a turn. You're like, wow, oh my God, where are we going with this? And, how much fun was it during the writing room when they're coming up with these creatives of like, we're going to take it here, we're going to take it there. And then was there any given point where you're like, I can go with it, or let's not go there, or let's save it till later?
Yeah, listen, we need to put story out there that's compelling. We don't have, we can't fly to Italy. We can't be in New York City. We can't go a million different places. So we're forced to sort of play this story right in the Vineyard. And so some of the twists and turns, I definitely leaned into. I loved where, the story went with Dana and with Bridgette and Dana and Rose, that sort of triangle that occurred. I want to do more with Christian's character. I did not want to unpack how he's dealing with his bipolar issues. I didn't want to unpack that yet. I wanted you to settle in with him. But as you know from the finale, he has a big, antagonist that he is unaware of that is going to, thrust him into season 2. So I think some of the things I was absolutely on board with. I am definitely for turning over cards, and you think the audience is going to go left and then you go right. I think that's important for right now. And especially if you are a show of our size.
You've been in television for so long, and you've seen, I'm old enough to remember Dallas and Falcon Crest and all of those other shows. And you see that when it comes to family of this magnitude, nothing's ever pleasant. One, whoever's the oldest is never the one at the table. It's always this family battles, like who's gonna lead, and it's like I think about Gerald and Bobby Ewing, how they were never on the same side, and it can go on. And with this, obviously now you've set the stage for Bridgette and August to be like family, but we're not close as we used to be. And so hopefully if we get to a season 2, we're going to see where that goes, especially the way it ended with Rose now siding up with Bridget and where we're going to go with that. Uh, have you already started paying attention? Like, hey, with the hopes that like you do get greenlit for season 2, let's get it going. Are you already having in mind where do you want to take it?
Yes, absolutely. I have in my mind, I have the A kind of plot, worked out. I have the B stories going, and, hopefully we'll get a group together and we will build upon those building blocks and thrust into season 2. I think the characters are starting to talk to all of us. You look at Dana and you know where he could go, left or right. He's a compelling character. And so you look at August and you go, how is she going to deal with this new looming threat? But yeah, I think, look, the reason why those big nighttime soaps worked back in the day was because they were rich characters and they were complicated characters. And I think you have that here with the Kings. And I think that's why, like, when we air, people are crazy online, tweeting about it, talking about it, because they're getting engaged with this compelling family.
When you have 8 episodes, the question is it too little? Do we need more? Does everything have to be packed in? Is it a lot more challenging when you have to put everything all into 8 episodes,
Yes.
and as opposed to like 10 or 12? And if there is a season 2, do we get 10 episodes? Usually, as I see from other shows, they start off with 8, then they expand, So is that the thought process? Like, if we go more, will we get more?
I hope so. I mean, I think if we go more and we were picked up for 10 or 12 or 16, you can stretch out the drama. So some of the, oh my gosh, we're on this roller coaster, will slow down a bit, because you can have character scenes that will breathe more. You can pay attention to the A story, the B story, the C story, and you can actually fill them out more. So the hope is, the hope is that we get more episodes, the audience more invested, and the journey can continue. And then you can really sit with some of these characters in the moments and not just all of the moves.
One never knows where the show's going to go. You shot the episodes already, unlike a network show where you keep shooting throughout the year. And so as the episodes were already done, now you have to watch the reactions, the recaps to see, are you paying attention to what people are saying in regards to the show, to the characters, that will help you along the next round as far as, okay, we need to add this to this character, we need to do this, just in a way. You don't like to think that way, but in order to please the fans in some way, or you're focused in what your game plan is?
I mean, I think you have to focus in with what the game plan is. I think, when you watch something, you can see things that might not work as well, and things you want to add to, or things you want to expand. Look, I love the audience. I love how passionate people are. I love how passionate people are, with their pitches of ideas. But at the end of the day, I'm a creative and I have to help, guide a ship and create a season 2. I can't look on Twitter and have somebody, tweeting from their living room telling me how to write this story. I mean, I have to have a vision that I listen to and I hold forth as the truth, because people will always have something to say. It does not matter what it is. You give people something, people have something to say. So, and people have good, they have bad, but you can't listen to either of it. You just have to tell the story and be true to what the characters are.
It's kind of funny. I spoke to somebody and they said, yeah, if you start reading into that stuff, you can get 100 applauses, but you'll be stuck on that one negative comment. You're like, and that will hit you throughout the day.
Yeah, and that's what happens. You literally get 100 tweets, and you get all these tweets, and then one person's like, blah, 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 and you think about that, because again, I mean, we're all kids, and we're all kids in the sandbox, and we're thinking about the person who called us a name, But you, as a creatives, you have to just tell the story,
Season 1, obviously, this is your baby. What did you learn in the process of, you've been on other shows, but this one was yours, where you have more to say than previous other shows. what did you learn in the process that helps your skill set down the road?
I mean, I think when you are dealing with a show this size, like in a, you know, I've come from a lot of shows that are big and have more mammoth budgets and stuff. And so when you're dealing with a show this size, it really is about character and the interactions of the character. Oftentimes on shows that are larger, you can go home, go on dates. You can, you know, people say like, why didn't the father stay alive? I'm like, I couldn't afford the father. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there are realities to it. So now that I know you're dealing with certain limitations, the storytelling has to unfold with those limitations and be just as rich. You know, you watch a show like Succession, they're in the house, they're jumping in the car, going through, you know, New York City, flying to Italy, they're in 5 apartments. Like this show's not that show. This is a small show that has a big statement about family. So what I've learned is, you know, be true to the characters, listen to the characters, and next season it's all about the character moments. And make them richer, make them more dynamic, but it's all about the character moments.
What went into the last episode when we find out who the stalker is and making him that guy? Like, really? You know, it's gonna be a family member. It was like that guy. No one saw that coming. You know, it wasn't like he had a lot of scenes where you're like, okay, you just kind of threw that like, here comes that left field. You know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, maybe at the end of the day, it should have been a family member, but at the end of the day, if you look back at it just story-wise, it was somebody who had been tracking the father as well. It is somebody who, you know, was not in family scenes with the family, because people are like, it's Rose, it's this person, you know. It was somebody that had a vendetta toward the family. And if you saw from episode 1, you know, this person had a vendetta. This person knew the family. His grandfather bought the vineyard. His grandfather sold the vineyard to Reginald, and he was harboring a vendetta. You know, you're not supposed to be looking at the villain. You're supposed to not be suspecting the villain. So I think this is someone who was in their life, somebody who went to school with them, and somebody who had an axe to grind.
Then there's Dana's storyline, which is interesting because you tackled, you know, the dwarfism right on, as opposed to like just making him a character and no one's talking about it. You threw it in there. You know, how sensitive were you and the writers exploring that storyline?
We were really sensitive. We winded up getting a consultant, and he helped us along the way so that we can make sure that his name happens to be Dana, and so that it could be real. In hindsight, there could have been a way to deal with this character and not talk about it. I mean, really, I could have spent the whole season and he never mentions it. But I was very intrigued on making him feel real and for you to unpack some of the things that he's dealing with and the challenges. And so I made a creative choice to deal with that. And so we dealt with it. And I think when you saw the flashback when he tried to get a job, I think some of the push and pull with his character is him dealing with it as a character. And so that was important to me.
Then there's the wine issue. Obviously, you know, anybody who's a wine connoisseur heavily look at this. And granted, we know it's a fictional show and so forth, but people want to get an idea, like they get it, you know. Who's the wine consultant on the show to throw on? Like, we want to see stuff. It's like when you watch a medical show, you want to hear some medical terminology. When you watch a police show, you want to get like the stuff that happens on. When you're dealing with wines, people want to get an idea, like, okay, there's the family drama, then there's the business aspect of it. Like, how much of the wine industry are we getting into this?
Yeah, we have a wine consultant, LaQuintus Tilford. Him and his father own a Black-owned vineyard called Tilford Vineyards in Georgia. And he was able to look through each of the scripts and help us with the jargon. Now, we also shot at a vineyard so that it felt real. There are places where, you know, we had to make up some stuff to make the story work in 8 episodes. I mean, we made a dessert wine in a quick amount of time, which you can't do. You know, there's a lot of suspending of belief. But LaQuintus really helped us, and he was a wine consultant. I looked at a lot of vineyards. I talked to a lot of people, my team did, and he was willing to consult. So that's where you get the language, like when they were stuck in the winery, in the production facility, and you heard the language, it's real because of that. I think as we go on, we'll continue to make it real or realer as possible, but it is a family show as well.
You know, this is a good time period in a way, because there's a lot of shows out there. As you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of Black shows. You know, we couldn't say this 5 years ago,
No.
10 years. You know, and now it's sort of like the more the merrier. We just now have to fight for that audience. You know,
Yeah.
as far as, you know, you don't. It's not a question about when you're airing. It's like, hey, sooner or later they're going to catch up to it. You know, there's no. You don't want to be the only Black show on a Monday or on a Tuesday. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, a good show, people will catch up onto it. Now that we're in the age of DVR and on demand, you know, people can catch up to it down the road. You know, and at the same time, you and the rest of the team have to help promote the show. You can't rely on it's on and there's gonna be an audience. No, you have to do a lot, because at the end of the day, there's a lot more going on, especially on Tuesdays. You know, as far as, you know, you want to get that first run audience, not the +3 or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
and so forth.
+3 is the audience of OWN is a +30 audience, but yeah, keep going.
You know, and so obviously, you know, when your team comes back and you have the storylines, it's like, what's, you know, and there's a lot with this show that people talk about. Like, you know, they talk about August's outfits, you know, and the wine set. It's like, oh, is this not just a show? Look what August is wearing. Even early on when we spoke and I saw the first 3 episodes, I was like, oh, they packed a lot into the wardrobe here, you know? So like, you may say it's a low budget. It's like, nah, I think a lot of the money went to the wardrobe. A lot of the money went to the wardrobe. Like, so Ebony was like, you know, we can't seem like I'm wearing the same clothes for the whole episode.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a smaller show in comparison to some huge shows. You know what I mean? But we did have a budget. Look, I've never in my career had to be on Twitter and Instagram promoting a show the way I had to do this. It is a street fight to get viewers. I've tweeted more than I've tweeted. I remember getting on Twitter. I remember getting on Twitter when I was on Criminal Minds, you know, 8 years ago or 10 years ago. I don't even remember. It was 6 years ago, whatever it was. And I remember getting on it, and I've probably tweeted more in this time span of promoting this show about this show, because you're right, to get audience engagement, you have to stay engaged. When Claws airs, it aired, boom, it got the ratings, and then the next thing you know, we're like tweeting that the night of, and it was a different beast. But now you have to engage with the audience, you have to tweet with them, you have to jump off of a Zoom like this and go and, you know, look online, because people are communicating online, and that is hard, and it is very, very hard and difficult when the market has so many shows.
And now, especially when you think about it, you know, there's not a lot of movies that people are going to the theaters for. So everything's all on TV. Everything is streaming. And with certain shows, as I do press, and I'm like, they don't have an audience. You know, the PR is not working it. You know, like, I can only do so much, you know, trying to promote the next person. Yeah. And you mentioned Criminal Minds, and it's like, at the end of the day, when Shamar Moore left, it's like, okay, there's nobody Black on that show. You know, but they got Black writers. You know, you believe it or not, people look at this stuff. Just the other day, you know, somebody told me, like, oh, Sally Richardson is the next executive producer of The Gilded Age. Like, who would have thought that? You know, it's like, you know, you look at The Gilded Age, it's like, it's another, you know, Downton Abbey, and it's like, no, we got to let people know that there's people of color out there, not just in front of the screen, but behind the screen, so that people are aware. And you never know, there's an audience out there that wants to support, because we all know that, you know, we don't always get the recognition, unless it's, unless it's a ratings hit. But it doesn't have to be a ratings hit, depending on some shows. Some shows get an audience down the road later on, after season 2 or so forth, and they start. And that's the thing. Sometimes with season 1, a lot of it's all about introducing characters, and people want to know that if they're going to invest in the show, they want to know it's going to come back. So if they know there's a season 2, let me start watching it. Otherwise, why put the investment into these characters if it's a one and done?
Yes.
So when they know season 2 is going to come back, boom, they can go back and start watching this.
Yeah, I think everything you say makes sense. We've had to really engage online. I think, we had such a huge crew filled with Black faces, people of color throughout, filled with women. We had all people of color as directors, and we had an enormous writing staff. Like we had all of these things. But again, it is like fighting to get the support. And I think once people find the show, people are really addicted to it. They become passionate about it. They get to know the writers. They're tweeting us, they're DMing us. People are, once they're like, oh my God, I saw 3 in a row. Yeah, people get addicted to it. And so it's right now in this climate of so much noise, getting fans to watch and to love the show, just like all the other fans that are doing it. And people are delaying their viewing. Not everybody watches that day. People watch 3 days later. People watch 7 days later. People get 3 episodes together and watch. All of those things are the new way we view shows.
Before I let you go, you're always working. What are you going to do past Tuesday?
Oh gosh, you know what? I have some stuff coming out. You will hear about it very, very soon, and I'm excited. So I'm fingers crossed for Tuesday, and hopefully, knock on wood, we will get a season 2, and you will be one of the first people to know about what's coming next.
And so if there's anything that you're more proud of, from this series, what stood out for you?
I think the series is about a really, really compelling family. And I think that as we move past the pandemic and we assess our lives, work is important. I think, acquiring things, yeah, we all want to buy new stuff. But I think one thing that we've learned is that family is important. They are the people that are in the front row seats of our movie, watching us, cheering us on, rooting for us, crying for us when things don't go well. And I think the Kings are that. They might have a lot of, crazy habits. They might have a lot of drama, but at the end of the day, they're there for each other.
Let's hope this is season 2. Janine, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Let's keep it going. I'm always there to root in. Keep going. Let's keep it happening. Wherever you're at, stay safe.
Yes.
The climate's hopefully getting better, and hopefully we'll get that season 2.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.